From the UNC School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering Carolina in HD, this is Carolina Week.
The 46-year-old Craig Hicks is behind bars tonight after the grand jury indicted him on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of discharging a firearm into an occupied dwelling. Hicks turned himself in after the shooting deaths of 3 Muslim students in Chapel Hill.
Hicks is being held in Central Prison without bond. Records filed in Durham County Superior Court on Friday show 4 handguns, 2 shotguns, and 6 rifles were recovered from Hicks' apartment. The warrant states officers found a male subject and 2 female subjects, all unresponsive. Police identified the victims as 23-year-old UNC dental student Dia Bearcat.
My name is Dia Bearcat. I'm a dental student at UNC. And I need your help.
His wife, Yusur Abu Salah, 21, and her sister, Razan Abu Salah, a 19-year-old student at North Carolina State. The shooting happened last Tuesday around 5 p.m. at the Finley Forest condominiums on Summerwalk Circle.
And I just heard gunshots. I don't know what building it came from, but I heard kids screaming.
Police blame an ongoing dispute about parking as a factor, but are also investigating the possibility this was a hate crime, a possibility the attorney for Hicks' wife denied.
This had nothing to do with any kind of religious beliefs or anything. This was just about a guy who snapped.
In a statement, President Obama said no one in the U.S. should ever be targeted because of who they are, what they look like, or how they worship.
There's been a major development in the case of a local man accused of a senseless and horrific crime. Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Lee.
And I'm Kristen Lee. Prosecutors will seek the death penalty for Craig Hicks, the man accused of killing 3 Muslim students at an apartment in Chapel Hill. The victims' friends and family members don't want to talk publicly about the upcoming trial. They're choosing instead to talk about the national outpouring of love and generosity that's helping them cope with the pain. This was the last message Dia Bearcat shared with the world on Facebook. He was helping feed homeless people in Durham. Dia's brother says that's who he was. Before a gunman took their lives, Dia, his wife Yusur Abu Salah, and her sister Razan were volunteers.
I think many people caught on quite quick that my brother, his wife, and Razan were very service-minded folks.
So why not keep that legacy of service alive? Why not feed their legacy?
And we felt like the only way to respond to this kind of a tragedy and this kind of evil is with a good act.
Elma City said that idea, guided by their faith, has prompted a national food drive, and Muslim organizations across the country are coming together to support the initiative. But the legacy isn't just about food. It's also about offering a different perspective.
You know, extremists are all over the news in terms of the Muslim faith right now, but people really don't get to see the side of the 99.9% of peace-loving, everyday American Muslims that just want to live happily like everyone else.
And although their lives ended abruptly, no one can forget their mission.
I know that my brother is loved by God, and that's clear and manifest in this reaction that we see from everyone. And that was, that's, I think, one of the most important things that helps me and my family to know that his actions were sincere and accepted by God.
Workers at collection sites will donate food to local food banks in each state. It's a crime that continues to send shockwaves through our community. 3 college students, all Muslim, gunned down in their home. Good evening, I'm Kristen Lee.
And I'm Elizabeth Chu. Thanks for joining us. The man accused of that crime knows what he's facing tonight, the death penalty. That was the judge's ruling during Craig Hicks' latest court appearance.
Court finds that this defendant is death penalty qualified.
That's Judge Orlando Hudson Jr. making it clear. Hicks faces death if convicted in the killings of UNC dental student Dia Bearcat, his wife Yusur Abu Salah, and her sister Razan Abu Salah, a student at North Carolina State. The ruling came after the prosecution released new details about the case.
DNA evidence which shows the blood of one of the victims, Yusur Muhammad Abu Salah, on the pants of the defendant.
The DA says this is key evidence Hicks murdered the 3. Hicks remained silent as prosecutors described his ongoing dispute with Bearcat about parking, and how he grabbed a gun and confronted Bearcat at his apartment near the Friday Center, shooting him multiple times. Then he turned to the women and fired again.
They were alive after the first volley of shots towards them. Each one of these women was then shot in the head. We intended to defend it then. Prior to exiting the apartment, shot the Bearcat a final time.
Details hard for the family to hear after seeing Hicks up close for the first time.
Come back.
The family spokesperson is attorney Joe Cheshire.
They're not even at the point right now where they're concentrating on the death penalty. They were here today because they wanted to see this man that caused the death of their children.
Hicks will be back in court June 1st, and new details, including the autopsy reports, will be released then. Paying for college can be expensive, and UNC's tuition could increase next year. Our AJ Nwoko sat down with 3 students to find out how the proposed increase would affect their time at UNC.
For sophomore ROTC student Griffin Buskill, this is what paying for college looks like. It's work, physical work, and not just in the classroom.
The United States Navy is paying my tuition and fees, and also providing me a small stipend each month, and then I'm paying room and board through my parents.
And Buskill says this program is more than just a way to pay for college.
It means opportunity. It means just opening doors after I leave University of North Carolina.
But for nursing student Haley Hamilton, the opportunities of college go beyond the $7,500 in loans she takes out every year.
There is, just tuition and fees, of course, is extremely expensive. But when you start adding thousands of dollars of textbooks and all that sort of stuff, it really adds up.
And even with a $20,000 Teaching Fellow Scholarship, graduate student Brian Warwick says he expects to pay back nearly $50,000 in loans.
So while it did give me that cushion at the beginning, it's almost like I almost got shafted in the end.
And in the end, it's not just tuition that's going up. State funding is going down. According to a study from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, this is a trend that's been playing out in the past decade.
Since 2007, state funding for public colleges in North Carolina have lost over $1 billion, while tuition has doubled through the last decade. And across the nation, revenue from state sources is down nearly 10%, while tuition is up 8%. And for Hamilton, Warwick, and even Buskill, it means taking out more loans when scholarships and grants run out.
It's a lot of stress.
I think it's absurd.
I think it's getting a little ridiculous.
With tuition at state universities expected to increase by almost 4% next year, this situation might get worse before it gets better. In Chapel Hill, I'm AJ Nwoko reporting.
As you might expect, many of us at Carolina Week aspire to go into TV news. So we look for inspiration from those currently in the business. One shining light in local TV is longtime WTVD anchor Larry Stogner, a Tar Heel alum who is retiring after learning he has ALS.
It's the end of an era.
My career in broadcast journalism is coming to an end.
That was 40 years in the making.
As it turns out, I have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Larry Stogner covered everything from presidential races to the fall of Saigon, but his roots are at UNC.
I really thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. My heart was not in it, so I lost interest, dropped out of school, joined the Air Force.
Where he spent 4 years, then returned to Carolina with a different plan in mind.
Someone in the service told me they thought that I would be a good broadcaster. And that little germ stayed with me.
And it's a good thing, because he passed it on to everyone he's touched.
I hope to be like him as a journalist.
Andrea Blanford is a reporter at ABC 11 and a Tar Heel herself, and says working with Stogner has taught her about the profession.
He's always in control, and that's what you need when you're looking for someone who's credible, who's going to give you the news as it really happens.
And so much more.
He's touched so many people because he's been here for so many years, and it won't be the same without him, but we're going to try.
And for Fred Shropshire, another Tar Heel and colleague.
And the one thing about Larry Stogner is throughout his entire career, he's always been up front, on the lines, telling stories.
An anchorman, a true anchorman. He was the first anchorman I'd ever met, really.
So Larry, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
for giving us 40 amazing years.
To all of you, I say one last time, thanks for the company and goodbye.
Restaurant patrons in Durham are eating everything from antelope to alligator at Bowl City Burger and Brewery. What makes a meat exotic? Science reporter Alistair Wilkins explains.
It might look like he's eating a hamburger, but this customer is actually enjoying ostrich meat. Bowl City owner Seth Morris.
It's exciting to talk about I ate iguana or python and do some education with that and explain to people burgers are not just beef. We can make burgers out of anything.
In the U.S., we consider animals like antelope and alligators exotic because we haven't traditionally raised them for meat. UNC archaeologist Ben Arbuckle explains.
And there's a really long history of people being interested in that other wild world and how it's different than the domesticated sort of urban or village life.
But why have cattle and pigs been on the menu for 10,000 years, but not, say, antelope?
They get nervous around people, and that's not good if you're trying to raise a herd.
Alligators might not be nervous around people, but there's a whole other problem with raising these giant killing machines for meat. Alligators don't have enough babies, and they grow up too slowly, unlike herds of cattle or sheep.
Herds get sick a lot, and their populations can fluctuate, and they have to be able to reproduce and grow and keep their numbers up.
Arbuckle says he'd like to try ostrich. As for Morris, he's long wanted to sample an aquatic mammal.
Well, even if for me it's just a taste, I want to say that I've tried beaver meat. So it's eluded me for 3 years. This is the year that I'll get to try beaver meat.
Those who eat 7 of the burgers get their own free t-shirt, saying I never met a meat I wouldn't eat. I'm going to get started on that right now. In Durham, I'm Alistair Wilkins, reporting and chowing down.
Now, Alistair knows better. What's the first rule of Carolina Week, Elizabeth?
You don't report on food if you're not going to bring us in a sample. Come on.
Exactly.
While vacations, colds, and lack of sleep might not be valid excuses for missing class, cancer is. But one UNC pharmacy student was able to avoid missing any class during his cancer treatment through the use of technology. Reporter Jordan Black has the story.
Doctors diagnosed UNC pharmacy student Matthew Brown with testicular cancer, not once, but twice. His second diagnosis came this past October during his 3rd year of pharmacy school, a year that involves lots of peer work and complex medical case problem solving. So the Eshelman School of Pharmacy introduced Brown to a unique technology, a telepresence robot that would take his place in class while he endured chemotherapy.
Contacted the school at that time, Brad Wingo, and sort of explained the situation, and he said, we'll work with you and do whatever we need to do in the spring, even if it means, we have these robots.
With the robot, Brown was able to be here for his cancer treatments and here for his classes at the same time. Without the robot, Brown said he would have been 1 year behind in pharmacy school. Brown manipulates his robot by using an iPad.
Basically, I would just log in, and as you can see, it works very similar to FaceTime as far as the screen. I could move it around the room if I needed to.
Brown said that faculty worked tirelessly to ensure his progress in class. Dean Bob Lewin said the robot allowed Brown to interact with his peers, an essential skill for pharmacists.
And it enabled a student, who was, going through a difficult period, in their life, having a health situation to no fault of their own, to be able to participate.
Brown said attending class virtually isn't the same as being there face-to-face, but that he was surprised how well he was able to keep up. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jordan Black reporting.
You gotta love technology. Brown has found out he's in remission just in time for graduation in May. Many grocery stores keeps expanding. That's because brewers in North Carolina are on the move. Reporter Alexis Simmons tells us just how important the beer economy has become in North Carolina.
The beer economy is booming, and it's bringing in the bucks. $791 million a year in North Carolina. Homebrewer turned CEO of Mystery Brewing Company in Hillsboro, Eric Lars Meyer, says getting into the business isn't easy.
It was a big risk then, it's still a big risk now. It's a huge, huge financial investment to start a brewery.
That risk goes beyond the expenses and pours into politics too. Chief Executive Optimist of Full Steam Brewery in Durham, Sean Lilly Wilson, was a leader of the Pop the Cap movement in 2003.
We worked for 3 years as volunteers to change this law that lifted the alcohol cap from 6 to 15%.
When that cap opened, so did the appeal for more brewers in the state. Home brewer and creator of Starpoint Brewing of Carborough, Tim Harper, says the law was a pivotal moment.
And now you could actually make beer that had more ingredients, varied ingredients, varied alcohol contents.
There are more than 100 breweries in North Carolina, like this one that you see right here. But what you might not know is how they got their start or how they affect the local economy. For Wilson, his ultimate goal is building what he calls a Southern beer economy. This means buying local and investing in agricultural entrepreneurs in the state.
You know, and you think, well, can beer have the same economic impact as tobacco has had historically? Absolutely.
In 3 years, the number of licensed brewers in North Carolina has doubled to about 130, one of the largest increases in the nation. Brewers say there are some obstacles they still need to barrel through.
We're still working with laws in the books that were written in 1938, 1939, post-Prohibition.
Right now, beer activists in North Carolina are pushing for a change in distribution laws so they can produce more beer, leading to more growth. In Durham, I'm Alexis Simmons reporting.
And we start with Ben Smart, live at the bar He's Not Here, with a report about the university's efforts to curb binge drinking. Ben.
Kristen, the health effects of a heavy drinking session could linger long after the hangover wears off, damaging one body part we couldn't think of living without. University administrators are paying attention.
It's now been more than 2 years since the death of UNC freshman David Shannon.
David was a student, a brother, and a friend.
Police say Shannon's death remains a mystery. We do know his blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit, and he fell to his death from this Carborough tower.
We were losing students. Either they were dropping out, they were failing out, they were getting hurt. In some cases, they were dying because of binge drinking.
The National Institutes of Health say binge drinking is a one-time event where blood alcohol levels reach 0.08%. In practical terms, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 shots of vodka for women and 5 shots of vodka for men, all in less than 2 hours.
The medical risks of alcohol use and the health risks are very real.
Dr. Michael Steiner says heavy drinking has serious consequences for young adults.
That actually the brain's pathways and connections don't fully develop until about age 25. Chronic use of alcohol likely can affect how those brain building blocks get laid down.
This is the brain of a binge drinker. Red areas show damaged tissues. Researchers say heavy drinking adolescents perform worse on thinking and memory tests and have trouble with spatial processing. Back on campus, the latest data from a 2012 survey show the extent of alcohol use. 43% reported binge drinking in the past 2 weeks. 76% of students said they saw drinking as a central part of social life. For men in fraternities, that number rises to 95%.
It's a cultural problem, and that part of dealing with it is also dealing with the culture.
Provost Dean and Vice Chancellor Winston Crisp have formed a team to tackle binge drinking. Administrators say they're not focused on light alcohol consumption. It's heavy drinking they're worried about. In Chapel Hill, I'm Ben Smart reporting.
In 2.5 weeks, seniors and some graduate students will transition from school to the next phase of their lives. Reporter Amy Sale looks at how students handle the stress of the unknown.
Last May, more than 6,000 undergraduate and graduate students got their degrees. But this time of transition isn't always smooth sailing. UNC senior Matthew Guan says he gets stressed thinking about his life after graduation.
It's really scary, to be honest.
we're all going into the real world now, and I feel like a lot of us aren't prepared for it.
Students under stress can show symptoms like feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, irritable, and depressed, says UNC psychiatrist Alan Obar.
Whether the upcoming transition is ending school and moving on either to graduate school or the unknown that's out there when you don't know what the next thing is.
Anxiety about the unknown also applies to graduate students. Take Becky Spitzer, graduating with a master's in public health this May.
Just not knowing, because I'm a planner, I like to know where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing so I can plan ahead and have that all figured out.
Although students can't change the sources of their stresses, Obar says managing time can help.
We can't expand time, but what we can do is help people learn how to process their anxiety and be able to make the most of the time that they have.
Physical activity like exercising helps Matthew Guan cope.
Main thing I've been doing is going to the gym, like being sure to spend a lot of time with my friends. Like, it's definitely self-care.
Campus Health Services also recommends maintaining consistent sleep patterns and good nutrition to manage stress. In Chapel Hill, I'm Amy Sale reporting.
Be sure to check out Carolina Week online at carolinaweek.org. Connect with us online by liking the Carolina Week Facebook page and following us on Twitter at Carolina Week UNC.
The UNC School of Journalism's tradition of international documentaries continues. Students and faculty collaborated on a project on maternal health in rural Malawi. Our Sarah Rutherford has the story.
Senior Josie Hollinsworth is one of 20 students who traveled to the Southeast African country of Malawi this semester to work on a journalism project with the nonprofit CARE. It was aimed at improving maternal health outcomes in the country.
CARE wanted us to come in and document exactly what was going on in the south of Malawi and in Cheyu, and what was going on with their project.
Hollinsworth was surprised by what they found.
The most striking thing that I saw when I was visiting Malawi was just the sheer number of children that would be in a small village. The average woman in Malawi has 5 children.
Malawi's population density is almost 4 times greater than the U.S. Some say its exploding population is a crisis, but Hollinsworth says that's what makes Malawi the warm heart of Africa.
We were just so impressed by the openness and kindness we experienced by the people.
Senior videographer for the trip, Isabella Bertolucci, agrees.
The people we worked with were really great, and they're all doing really great work. And they're all really inspirational people that I think more people should know about.
The students worked between 12 and 18 hours each day during the trip, shooting, editing, and interviewing, not to mention the countless hours they've worked on the project since spring break. But Hollinsworth says it's worth it.
I'm just so honored to have been able to go to this amazing country. Malawi really is just outstanding.
And this is just one of the outstanding opportunities Carolina students can take part in. In Chapel Hill, I'm Sarah Rutherford reporting.